Here I am, meandering on my version of a promenade, in my version of a Bridgerton dress. But let's get back to where it began. It's raining. I love rain. I recently found this tablecloth at the estate sale. I think it's polyester cotton. I feel it, and the way the eyelets are done, they're burned, so you can only do that with polyester, but I still love it. So I'm contemplating making that dress out of it. So every Bridgerton dress needs to have something on the where the bodice meets the skirt, and I have this doily, so I'm just going to cut it off and then most likely just zigzag it on to the dress by the time I put the bodice onto the skirt. And then for the sleeve, it was quite difficult to get it out, but there was this piece that was extra, so I sewed it onto the sleeve part that I cut out, and I zigzagged it because it's a very small seam. And I'm now going to iron it flat, and then I'm just going to give it bias binding over there and put elastic through, and that will be the sleeve. I have this vision in my head of how this dress is going to look like, but if I look at it like this, it might make me look like a cupcake. But let's see, I'll pursue the vision and see where it goes. So the stretch net, I've sewed the frill to it. It's a bit narrower than the top part, and I hope it's not going to be a problem, but we'll have to see. I want you to notice how this is actually already almost perfect. I still need to iron it though, but I want to show you the inside. First the outside. I've done the understitching, and that actually is part of the reason why it folds over so nicely over there. But then this is the reason why the curve is forming so nicely. So I do my little cuts, and then on the opposite side I do them in between, and that makes the thickness over here much less, and it gives you an even spread. When you fold it over, it actually looks really nice, and all I have to do now is go and iron it flat, and this neckline will be perfect. It's ironed, and I added a dart under the arm because I find it fits better. And now it's the part that I'm actually fearing, is to add the skirt to the bodice. Now I fitted the bodice, and it's a really high-waisted one. But then I went and I looked at my inspiration, which is Bridgerton, of course, and their waist, they are really empire. So I think I can get away with it. Part of me feels like I need to make it maybe a bit longer, sew it onto that tape, sew the skirt onto that tape over here, cover it all up with that lace. But I think I'll first go with just adding the skirt to there, and I'm still going to put the lace on that, and then see what I'm going to do. This is very old lace. It's been hand crocheted, and it is a bit stained, but this is a tablecloth, and that is some crocheted lace. So I'm just going to connect the two. All pinned in place. Remember, you're going to sew on the smooth side, because the feed dog will keep the gathers from spreading out while you're sewing, and then your gathers stay in place. So remember when you're sewing to keep your hand underneath and just move it with your fingers as you go, so you don't catch the underneath fabric into the seam. First, look at the fit. I'm holding it at the back so you can't really see, but I think I like it. First step with the invisible zipper is we're going to iron that open all the way on both sides. I don't have an invisible zipper foot for any of my machines, so I had to find ways to put in a zip without that. So the first step that I showed you was to iron this open. But if you look closely over there, there's a little line. So when I sew on that line. I like to start in the middle on the edge and just work my way in, and then all the way to the top. Then I will go back in the middle and work my way down all the way to where the seam stops. Next up, I made sure my middle line meets up on the side, and then I pinned just the edge of the zip, and I'm now going to sew that edge in place. Then afterwards I will come back in, open the zip up, and then sew as close to the teeth on that line that I showed you before. I've sewed it over there, and now I'm going to open the zip. And again, I just start underneath the waistline, and I'm going to work all the way up to the end. Now I'm starting above the waistline where I've sewed already. You can see there's the stitch line of what I've sewed down, and I'm going to meet up with that stitch line and then sew all the way down. And here at the bottom of the zip, I'm now going to pull that zip open all the way to the end. So it's open now, and now I'm going to sew until there, where the seam is. So the zip's open and it's sewn in place everywhere, and I'm just going to close it. And when I get to that part where it's together, just wiggle it through. It's like this, and I go in there and just pull it. And there is the final product. So looking at this, I see there's like a millimeter difference between the two sides. So what you can also do is just take a needle and thread and tack it in the place where you want it after you've sewed the first one. And then you sew the rest in place. I'm not bothered too much about that because I am going to put lace on there. And this is now the channel where I'm going to put elastic in for the arms. Today I'm going to chat to you about McCall's M8197. I really love this dress. I was inspired by Brighton, Penelope walking around with a cleavage and looking stunning. Made me think that I could pull it off. But there's a few things about this dress that I'm not so sure about. One, it's got little gathers under the boobs, and I decided not to do it because this fabric was a bit stiff. Two, it's very short. I actually had to add on a piece, and I did it by giving it the underlining and add the piece to that, and I already did cut it about this much longer on the pattern. And three, this part here, there's something wrong. I cut it on a size 20 and that was too big. So I went down to an 18. But what some of the big 5 do is as they go bigger, they just make the neck wider and wider. And then even if you are a bit bigger on top, it actually is too wide and it keeps on falling off. So one of the things that I don't like about this is it kind of like gapes here. And I would take that front pattern piece and actually give it a little pleat on there and then cut it out, because I've given gathers and I've tried to fix it, but it's really bothersome. Otherwise, I love it. I would make this in something that's a bit more soft and flowy. I feel like this fabric is beautiful, but it's not flowy enough. This would look really good in something like a viscose or a viscose rayon, something that will hang with a little bit of weight, but that drapes beautifully. But overall, I love it.